Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is George Fredette. I'm a recently retired civil engineer. I'm the proud father of 4 adult children and the grandfather of 2 very happy and playful little girls. I'm also Ken Seguin's first cousin, but cousin in this case doesn't adequately describe our relationship. You see, our family homes were near to each other. We are close in age. We were friends in the sandbox and on the playground. Family parties were recurrent. We played together on the high school varsity basketball team. We worked construction jobs together. For many years, we sang in an informal quartet, singing Christmas carols. We were groomsmen in each other's weddings. Ken and I are friends. I'd like to introduce you to Ken, the man who I knew before 1992. He was a sociable person, a man who genuinely cared about others. He was liked by many. He was fun. He was responsible and reliable. Ken watched out for the little guy, giving everyone a chance and respect. When we played backyard basketball, Ken would deliberately choose teammates who might have otherwise been overlooked. He made each person feel integral to the team. Winning was secondary. I respect that. I knew Ken as a loyal family man. Even our long-standing tradition of the quartet Christmas caroling took a back seat as Ken spent time with his wife and family at Christmas time as we had grown older. And then April 1992. You can imagine that I had a hard time accepting that Ken was responsible for the murder of his family. I vividly recall the words of the attorney who represented Ken 33 years ago. Attorney Carney told me, "Ken is the same man you knew. He just has a problem now." The words fell short of describing the enormity of that situation, but he was right. Ken is still the same man that I knew. I've been a regular visitor to prison, at first weekly, although the frequency has diminished much over the years. When only a finite number of visitors were allowed, Ken prioritized his immediate family, and I did not make the list. So there was a 9-year lapse in visits. Recently, I became an approved visitor, and I have visited Ken 3 times since August. During those visits and in emails and letters, Ken is always concerned about the family members. That's what he wants to talk about, and that's what he asks about. He often knows more about the family news than I do. And unless I ask, Ken doesn't talk about prison life. Even then, he dismisses the subject. He doesn't want to be the focus of attention or the focus of my sympathy. I have witnessed Ken earnestly confronting his past. He knows that what happened to his family is his own fault. He owns it. In a recent email, Ken wrote to me in part, quote, "I am guilty, I am accountable, and I take ownership of my crime." The value of family that I saw in Ken before the crime makes it clear why Ken still cannot talk about Polly, Danny, and Amy without his eyes becoming red, his face flush, and his voice cracking. Regret is apparent. The hurt has not diminished since 1992, and we both know that it will never, because he cannot walk away from it. It's part of him. There's debate whether the primary purpose of DOC is punishment or rehabilitation. I've read some of the literature on that subject. My conclusion? It's up to the individual inmate. Like anything in life, you can learn from an unpleasant experience, or you can let them defeat you. In prison, Ken has become profoundly introspective and spiritual. During visits, we have discussed deep feelings, more so than ever before. Ken wants to be open and share his innermost thoughts. Frankly, I have learned from Ken the lessons of peeling back the layers of shame and guilt that conceal our true motivations and feelings, and exposing some dark secrets. I think we all have those. Ken's dedicated participation in support groups, seminars, and Christian fellowship demonstrates his interest in rehabilitation and his preparation for life outside of prison. Ken has discussed with me his plans to counsel others in transition. He has a solid plan to benefit those around him using his own life experience for the greatest good. And I'm certain that Ken's life after prison will be productive. My wife and I are committed to financial support, emotional support, and logistics to help Ken begin a new life. When I visited Ken and I told him of our commitment, he responded to me that what he wants most is a sounding board, someone to listen to him and help him work through his feelings. I will be there. None of us want to be defined by our worst moments. We all seek mercy. And history is full of stories of men and women that endured hardships and have been tormented by evil and then found peace with God. Ken Seguin is one of those people. I ask you to consider parole for my cousin and my friend so that he can live a fruitful and benevolent life outside the walls of prison. He is not a risk to others. He will be an asset to society. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Dan Seguin.
Dear members of the Parole Board, I'm Dan Seguin, Ken's brother. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in support of Ken's parole. I would like to address a few characteristics that Ken has demonstrated during his time of incarceration. These are self-awareness and remorse for his crime. Also, I wish to address support from my wife and me. Ken has influenced me significantly, especially in managing stress related to my business and employees. He emphasized the importance of self-awareness, using techniques like medication to clear one's mind, increase awareness, and set goals. He advocated for open communication with friends, having objective self-reflection, and acceptance of oneself and others. These are principles I have adopted based on Ken's influence. I know he has applied them to himself and others. Ken expressed that knowing how to utilize these self-awareness methods, he could not possibly repeat his crime. My wife Laurie and I communicate with Ken nearly every week. Our discussion often includes updates on family and events. On occasion, Ken expresses his deep regret and remorse for his actions, acknowledging the impact on our family. While we cannot change what happened, we focus on forgiveness, as this will aid in healing. We work together to seek God's unmerited favor for grace and healing. Laurie and I are prepared to support Ken's reintegration into society. If paroled, we offer him a place to stay in our home, financial assistance if needed, and an administrative position in my company. We will also help him find support groups and churches, although Ken has expressed an interest in supporting a local halfway house and engaging in church fellowships. We will be there for Ken. Ken's growth, self-awareness, and genuine remorse indicate his readiness to re-enter society. His ongoing efforts to make amends and assist others reflect his character development during incarceration. Based on these observations, and others I don't have time for today, I support Ken's parole and believe he deserves the chance to contribute positively to society. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Craig Parker.
Members of the Parole Board, my name is Craig Parker, and I am a Christian minister who's been serving incarcerated individuals in Massachusetts since 2017. I'm part of a network of churches who seek to offer reentry care for returning citizens in the Commonwealth. I worship at High Rock Church in Arlington and work with an initiative known as High Rock Beyond Bars, where over 20 members of our congregation are connected with dozens of individuals in the correctional system through correspondence, phone calls, visitation, and volunteer programs. And I'm here to offer my strong support for Kenneth Seguin's petition for parole. I've had the privilege of knowing Ken for about 3 years. I first met him when I visited the chapel at MCI Shirley in April 2022. Since then, he and I have maintained active communication, mostly through mail and email. Additionally, because of my friendship with a number of individuals involved with the chapel community, including 5 inside members and 3 outside volunteers, I routinely hear about Ken's leadership among his peers. Ken's genuine commitment to his Christian faith and to the Christian community are evident to all who know him. He excels in character, wisdom, intelligence, and personal discipline. I have interacted with over 100 incarcerated men and women in the past 7 years. In my experience, Ken distinguishes himself as a top candidate for parole. Given the devastating nature of the circumstances that led to his conviction, Ken's story of self-forgiveness, restoration, and hope is truly inspiring. It taps into the basic human longing for love, accountability, and the possibility of change, no matter how dark the past may be. Ken has written a number of Christian devotionals for me that I've used as local sermon illustrations, and there are illustrations on self-forgiveness, personal and sacred responsibility, and I've emailed these to hundreds of ministry partners around the U.S. And I've heard replies from friends in Oregon, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Wisconsin, and Iowa who have expressed their appreciation for Ken's insight. Ken is a man of maturity, humility, kindness, and love who continually ministers to others as the Lord has ministered to him. Upon his release, Ken has made clear his intent to engage in reentry care in Massachusetts. As he has worked so diligently for his friends behind the wall, he desires to lovingly offer restorative pathways and landing pads for men and women who will come home one day. I and my colleagues at High Rock Church desire to fully support Ken upon his release. Together, we will actively offer guidance, resources, and a supportive community as he undertakes this next chapter of his life. And in my role as someone who seeks to mobilize faith communities to serve those affected by incarceration, I would count it an honor to work alongside Ken so we can serve this population together. I firmly believe that Kenneth Seguin is ready for this opportunity. He's demonstrated the insight and determination needed to positively move forward. He's turned a tragic story into one of the most redemptive stories of transformation I've ever seen or heard. I trust that you'll give careful thought to Ken's request for parole, and I hope that you will recognize the strength of his character and the support system in place to help him succeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Wayne Sorrell.
Morning.
Good morning.
All right. I have to do this. Dear board members, 3 years ago, I appeared before the parole board on behalf of Ken Seguin. When I spoke then, I said he is a man who turned his life around for Jesus Christ, which he truly did. Unfortunately, too many inmates seem to use that as an excuse to try to be released from prison. Today, I know Ken is a man of repentance and remorse. We have been close friends for 5 years. Many times we have talked on the phone, and I have listened to his tears of remorse that have actually brought me to the point of tears, as I could sense his pain. Ken has dedicated himself to complete change of behavior patterns as well as spiritual convictions. In the past 5 years, Ken has changed dramatically. I remember at one point he spoke of seeing a man playing tennis with his boy. He teared up because he pictured that boy being Danny. He has had many instances like that, whether it be Danny, Amy, or Polly. Is it even possible that anyone could empathize with how those feelings of remorse would come about? I doubt most people would even care, but I do. This man has become family to my wife and myself. Ken has been a blessing to both of us, as he has used his discernment and wisdom to help me focus as opposed to my having attention deficit disorder, ultimately helping me to focus more on my wife and our love, where the two become one, a relationship with Jesus in the midst, which, without Ken's help, this may have never come to fruition. Kenny, my wife, and myself have become family. We will always be family to him, and he will always be welcome into our home. I would like to share some attributes of Ken's that I have seen him grow in over the past 5 years. It's because of his grace, his mercy, forgiveness, teaching and writing skills, his love, and self-discipline. He has helped many inmates come to a much better place and more suitable for becoming more educated, in a number of cases more suitable for release from prison. Finally, I just wanted to say that Ken has become a very loving man of God with discipline, because true love would include respectful discipline. But love without discipline is not and will never be true love. Ken has become a very godly man with much love. I believe with proper plans for release, with a position already established, would result in his release. Whoever Ken was 33 years ago, he definitely is not that man today. So I plead that you would give a strong consideration for his release from prison. Ken has helped so many inmates on the inside. I can't help but consider how many more people he could help on the outside with as many attributes and qualifications. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Christina Sorrell?
Good afternoon. My name is Christina Sorrell. This is part 2. My husband Wayne just spoke. I've known Ken through Wayne for the last 5 years. I was also sitting at his parole hearing in 2022. However, I haven't known Ken well until about 2 years ago. Wayne began corresponding with Ken initially through calls and letters. He shared a few things with me along the way, and he seemed convinced that Ken was a different person. I was a small part of some of the conversations, but I struggled with seeing who Ken was versus what I knew about his murders. Let me say, over time, I began to notice a change in my husband. He was becoming a better listener. He was more attentive to our marriage. And I wanted to understand for myself how a man that did such cruel things could make a positive impact on my own husband. This led to my paying more attention to their phone conversations, and I heard a genuine discussion and open dialogue about life struggles. I noticed that they spoke as friends, somewhat like brothers. I asked to read the email and the letters that they had with correspondence, and I found Ken's correspondence to be full of transparency and encouragement. Some were informational email, others inspirational. Never did he write from a place of self-pity, or did he have letters full of excuses. And I heard the remorse of some of his letters as he acknowledged what he did to his family. Ken called one evening about a year ago and asked to speak with me directly. He wanted to tell me what happened. He shared every detail, every horrible, shameful piece. I could hear a painful brokenness in his voice. I appreciated his honest account and being able to share so much with me, and then just to let you know that what he told me was later confirmed by what I read from the parole board's rendering of the crime from the police report. So it wasn't anything that he was making up to try to blow smoke. I recently read Ken's autobiography, as you have, and I'm not going to go into any detail, but my main takeaway was emotional communication was never developed in Ken's life. There were a lot of situations in which he needed to speak of personal struggle, as you've touched on this morning, but he never felt empowered to do so. He coped with personal challenges by working harder, being more successful, and stuffing every difficult feeling he was having. I can tell you that I do not know that Ken Seguin, who could not share his deep feelings or thoughts. And you had asked about a question about a recent experience, and in a recent visit, Wayne and I were talking with Ken. He expressed how something that was being said was a trigger for him. He articulated the stressor, and we were able to understand where he was coming from. The conversation smoothly shifted in a way that made Ken and both of us feel comfortable. There were no unkind words or pressure we see from Ken, but he simply expressed the issue, and we all made the adjustment. From firsthand experience, I believe Ken can now see his triggers and can speak of what is happening openly instead of stuffing them deeper. I'm very impressed by the way Ken has taken responsibility for his personal development. You see his packet. I appreciate all of those opportunities for him, but one area that I personally experience is the development of his reflective writing, his communication skills. He writes from deep places, from places of pain, remorse, as well as places of joy and hope. He has a future gaze while also being fully aware of his circumstances. In conclusion, I fully support Kenneth Seguin's parole. I strongly believe his prison sentence has served its purpose. He was punished for what he did and was rehabilitated in so many extraordinary ways. Ken will definitely be an asset and not a detriment to society. His wealth of knowledge, his emotional maturity, the lessons learned in the past 33 years, and his passion for helping other men will lend beautifully to doing reentry program work, which is what's strongly on his heart, as you know. My husband and I will continue in relationship with Ken to provide guidance, encouragement, support. He has become a friend and even feels like a family member. Ken is invited to the house at any time. I do not feel unsafe. I do not feel in fear of having Ken released. Again, I fully support his parole. Thank you very much for your time.